stability under Augustus. But stability did not guarantee good rulers. Among the emperors who followed, two names would become symbols of imperial excess and controversy: Caligula and Nero. After Augustus died in AD 14, the empire passed through a succession of leaders who demonstrated how unpredictable absolute rule could be. Without the careful political balancing acts of the first emperor, the system was vulnerable to the temperament of whoever wore the purple. The entire vast machinery of the Roman state, controlling millions of lives, was now subjected to the whims and paranoias of a single individual. The Roman system was about to be stress-tested by leaders who pushed the limits of their authority, showing that political legitimacy was shifting from the Senate to the battlefield. Caligula became emperor in AD 37. At first, Romans welcomed him. He was young and widely liked for his connection to the beloved general Germanicus, a legacy preserved in the marble busts of the period. But his reign soon became increasingly erratic. Ancient sources describe a court consumed by extravagant spending and violent political purges. Modern historians heavily debate many of the sensational stories of Caligula's madness. Much of our information comes from his political rivals, who often exaggerated the eccentricities of fallen rulers to justify their removal. Yet the political outcome was undeniable. Caligula destroyed his relationship with Rome's political establishment, alienating the very people required to keep the state running. In AD 41, that political alienation turned lethal. Caligula was assassinated by members of his own Praetorian Guard. His death shocked the empire and exposed a critical vulnerability. The emperor's personal bodyguards realized they possessed the physical force to remove a ruler and dictate the succession themselves. Yet Rome did not abandon imperial rule. Instead, the Praetorians elevated Caligula's uncle, Claudius, to the throne. Despite a reputation for being weak, Claudius proved far more capable than his detractors expected. He managed the government carefully and stabilized the treasury. His government also expanded Roman territory. Beginning in AD 43, Roman legions crossed the Channel, initiating the conquest of much of Britain and leaving stone foundations that still mark the landscape today. Claudius demonstrated that the imperial machine functioned effectively when guided by a steady hand, but that stability would vanish under his successor. Nero became emperor in AD 54, taking power while still very young. During his early years, experienced advisors managed the affairs of state and kept the empire secure. Later, however, Nero increasingly pursued his own passions. He focused on music, poetry, and theater, activities that the Roman elite viewed as a disgrace to the office of emperor. Then, in AD 64, disaster struck. A massive fire broke out and destroyed much of Rome. Citizens whispered that Nero himself had caused the fire. Ancient historians later claimed that, to deflect the blame, Nero ordered the brutal persecution of Christians. Modern historians continue to investigate the fire, carefully separating these ancient accusations from Nero's actual logistical response to the crisis. What is clear is that Nero's rule eventually ceased to function. Revolts erupted in the provinces, and in AD 68, the Senate officially declared him an enemy of the state. Nero's downfall showed that even absolute rulers could not survive once they lost the support of both the military and the political elite. Abandoned by his remaining supporters, Nero fled Rome. His reign ended shortly after with his own death. But the fall of the emperor did not lead back to a republic. Instead, factions within the military backed their own commanders, leading to 3 different emperors rising and falling within a single year. The violence of that year exposed a reality that would haunt Rome for centuries. The emperor did not actually require the Senate's approval. The emperor only needed the army. Once Roman soldiers realized they held the power to appoint leaders, the military became the primary engine of political life. The victor of this civil war would eventually restore order. To solidify his new dynasty, he would begin building grand monuments, including an enormous amphitheater that still dominates Rome today. To be continued in Episode 7. Next episode, Rome at its greatest, the empire without equal. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Stories Dose, so you never miss the next chapter of history.